Hey everyone, my name is Melissa Tunstall. I'm the Young Adult Services Manager at the Wanda Mount Pleasant Public Library, and I'm here today to talk about crystals. So we are going to learn how to make 4 different kinds of crystals using mostly household ingredients. And patience is definitely a virtue in life, but especially when making crystals. So I had some ups and downs with some of these that I'll go through. But the ingredients that you will need: sugar, Epsom salt, vinegar, salt, and then we have alum. This was a little harder to find. I actually found it at Walmart, and it's in the baking and spice aisle. I went to one grocery store and they didn't have it, so just a heads up. Then you'll need some sponge, which you can cut into smaller pieces. Food coloring is always optional, but if you wanted to add some color to your crystals, you'll need that. And then either like threads or string, or if you have any like cake skewer pops, those would work really well. And then other supplies that you'll need are measuring cups and spoons, pans, and then some shallow plates and jars. So the 4 different types of crystals we are going to make are, one is using alum, and it's very simple, 2 ingredients, water and alum, very easy. Next one is, let me look at my notes, is the Epsom salt, which is also just Epsom salt and water, super easy. And then we have the sponge crystal, which uses vinegar and salt and hot water. And then the last one, which is an edible crystal, is rock candy. And so that uses just sugar and water, and then some of the more tactile ingredients. So we'll get started with the alum. I'm gonna get the water off of the stove and bring it over, and we'll just get right to it. Okay, so for the alum crystal, we're gonna move. We have half a cup of hot water, so I let it boil and then I let it cool just a little bit on the stove. You could just use really hot tap water if that works. And then you are going to slowly stir in the alum. It calls for 2.5 tablespoons. So you're just gonna slowly stir it in. Until it won't dissolve anymore. And keep going. I'm just gonna keep stirring that. It's a really terrible noise, but stir it until it's all dissolved. Pour it into a shallow dish. And you just want it to coat the bottom of the shallow dish. So we've got one of these. That should be really thin, and just do a little bit, like ever so slight. And then you gotta leave that for a few hours overnight, and your crystals will start to form. Save this, because once they start forming, you'll be able to, sorry, I was off camera, wasn't planning ahead. Pick out some of the larger crystals. I didn't dye these, so they're gonna be hard to tell how big it is. See? Can you see that? You'll find some of the larger pieces of crystal, and if you wanted to do this, you could wrap some fishing line over it and then submerge it back into your solution, and it'll grow larger and larger and larger. I just chose to make these ones because they were pretty cool. So easy, takes like about a day tops to make. Then the second one we're gonna do is the Epsom salt, because that's also super simple. So let me get some more hot water. So we've got half a cup of hot water, and then you need half a cup of Epsom salt. pour it on in there. Oops. Some might go somewhere that's fine. And you stir until it's all dissolved. There's a lot of stirring in crystal making. So I am not like, I don't really like baking, was never really like great at science experiments, and it's because I like to just try things out. Like cooking, great, I'll throw in a dash of chili peppers, whatever, but when I have to follow like really strict instructions, I don't really like being told what to do. But with this, you gotta do what they say to make it work, so I'm learning new things. So this is mostly, it's pretty much all dissolved. It'll have this sort of cloudy color. And then if you want, you can add some food coloring. Make this blue. Just gonna do one, make it pastel. And swirl that in. And this is the easiest one. You just set it in the fridge for a few hours and it'll start forming. So I have one that I did yesterday and you can see all those crystals forming. So now we're gonna make the rock candy crystals. So I have 2 cups of, it was boiling water that I just put into this. And this is a lot of sugar, so just be ready. It takes 6 cups, so you're gonna put it in 1 cup at a time. And just keep stirring, just to make, so we're actually gonna do it 1/4 of a cup at a time. So I have 2 cups of boiling water, and then I've added 1/4 of a cup of sugar, so it's cooled slightly, and you're just gonna stir and stir and stir until all the sugar is dissolved, and keep adding. So we've got 1/4 of a cup, and it's gonna take 6 cups of sugar. Keep adding it. Once you have your 6 cups of sugar in there, you're gonna let it cool for 20 minutes. So we're gonna put this to the side, let it cool for 20 minutes. And we'll be back. In the meantime, we're going to make our sponge crystal. So I have 1/2 a cup of hot water in here, and I'm going to mix in 1/4 of a cup of salt. And this is and so different types of salt will dissolve differently and create different shapes and patterns, so that's something you can play around with if you want to try it in different ways. So we have 1/4 of a cup of salt, and we're just going to dump it on in there. Make sure we get it all. And then guess what we do? We add vinegar. Fooled you. So we add 2 teaspoons of vinegar, and this is a 1/2 teaspoon, so we'll do it. I was told to never pour over what you're mixing it in because you might over pour, but you're gonna live on the edge. Okay. So we have our 2 teaspoons of vinegar. Now we're gonna just stir it all up. To be honest, it does not smell great. It smells like salty vinegar water. But it's gonna make a crystal, so it's worth it. Almost there. Once, move this salt. Once it's all dissolved, you're going to take, again, a shallow dish, and then you can cut a sponge up. We're just going to use this a little bit of it and see how it goes. You can make it smaller if you want. Larger the sponge, the more solution it's going to need. Add some more salt. And then you are just going to pour this over your sponge until it completely saturates the sponge and some of it starts to kind of seep out of the bottom. And then if you wanted to, you could add some food coloring to see it grow. Let's add it green. I haven't used that yet, have we? So we'll just do, and this is also fun because you could add different colors and then they can grow into each other. Blue next to it. Obviously, since the sponge is orange, it's going to affect the color a little bit, but we'll just keep monitoring it to see. So we've got that. You want to save any extra salt, vinegar, water solution that you have in an airtight container in the fridge. And that way you can just add more to it as you leave the sponge. So you should leave the sponge out all day, overnight, as long as you see fit, but definitely that long, about 24 hours, in a sunny area with well circulating air. So I did that. I started this one last night, and you can just start, you won't be able to see it on here, you will just start to see some of the crystals starting to form. So I'm gonna keep it going and I'll take a picture and let you guys know what it keeps looking like. Sorry, that's my dog. So we're gonna go back to the rock candy. It still has a few minutes to cool, but one thing that we can start prepping is the holder for the rock candy. So we're gonna use this embroidery floss string, and I've just got a paper plate, and you're gonna put a little bit of sugar on a plate. I'm gonna go just run this under the tap very quickly. So I've cut the string and I ran it under some tap water, and then you're just gonna actually drape the string and kind of rub it in some sugar so the sugar sticks to it, and it'll kind of help create a base of where the rock candy will form. So we're just gonna get sugar all up on it. At least that's the idea. Okay, so we'll leave it there. And just wait for the sugar to water, the simple syrup to continue to cool. Once it's cool, we'll go through the last steps. Okay, so we're back. Our simple syrup, sugar, water has cooled. We've got our sugar coated string, which is kind of hard to see. There it is. And then what you do is you just tie the string around something that can balance it across the top of your jar. So a pencil would work, a straw, a skewer. If you're using a wooden skewer, I saw online that the tips would, for having it rest as it needs to rest, like this, include a clothespin or like a paper clip contraption. So you can get inventive. And we're just gonna make sure it goes all the way down. You want it to kind of, you want the string to hang straight or the skewer to hang straight. So we're gonna keep submerging it until it does, but you don't want it to touch the bottom, so we're getting there. Now, you can add some food coloring. That'll make the rock candy, you know, a pretty color when it comes out. I did this one a few days ago, and I mean, you can't even see through it on the camera. It's purple, but it makes it really hard to see if crystals are growing. So I pulled it out and that's not helping. So I'm just gonna add like 1 drop in and we'll stir it around. My hands are so sticky from the sugar. Now, here comes the tough part. You're gonna wanna put, you could have separated this into different containers and done a bunch of little ones. We're just gonna do the one. And you will want to put a loose, either like plastic saran wrap or cling wrap over it, or just a paper towel to kind of keep things from going in the water, dust and particles. And then you just have to sit and wait for like 7 days. So you'll see some crystals starting to form, totally normal. You'll see some crystals start to form along the top, totally normal. Just don't touch it, and it should grow. This one, we're having trouble getting the rock candy to grow, and it's because the first recipe I tried called for like half the amount of sugar. So now we're trying this one, more sugar, extra delicious. I will post the final product if it works, and if not, then it's an experiment, and that sometimes happens, and I'd love to see your final products. If they work, share your tips. Thanks so much.